Welcome to Hat-Trick City on WXCI 91.7, Danbury's only all-hockey radio show.
I know that some in our audience don't know the finer points of hockey.
You want me to dummy you again?
Hat-tricks, baby! Woo-hoo!
Folks, welcome back to Hat-Trick City. I'm your host, DJ Patrik. As always, joined with me here in the studio is DJ Uncle Matt. And we're back after a few weeks of kind of unwinding, enjoying the last few bits of summer before the season kicks off. I know I went about a week and a half ago. I was in Arizona visiting some family out there. Had an amazing time. Really enjoyed the desert and, being out there in that 100-degree plus heat. I mean, once I got off the plane at JFK coming back, I missed it immediately. Just that heat, it's always nice, but without the seasons up here, we wouldn't have hockey the way it really is and thrives up here. And, I also got to skate while I was out there at the same facility. I'm trying to figure out how to really word this without being misleading. It's in Mullet Arena where it's
a practice rink within the arena.
There you go. Yeah, so I was able to skate there at the practice rink for the Yotes and the Devils, as it be the Sun Devils, not to be confused with any other Devils. Yeah, so it was a nice little rink. Oddly enough, kind of warm in the rink, not like noticeably warm, but you could tell it felt off compared to like back home. So it was obviously nice to get a skate in at that building, and then on top of that, I was able to pick up some Coyote stuff just cause. And Matt, the disrespect out there for that team. I mean, I know it's like talked about, but to witness it firsthand in those stores is crazy. I went into this big
probably no different than the Islanders, like before they started going back to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they're on a skid again. But
I mean, but nothing like this though. I went to they have these Just Sports. It's like a chain out there. I went to this bigger store in one of the malls my girlfriend and I shopped at, and I couldn't even find Coyote stuff in like the front of the store. I had to go all the way to the back, and tucked in between the corner of a wall with hats. It was like 5 different Coyotes hats, but they were so tucked away, it was like you'd miss it if you just glanced at the wall.
Yeah, you got to remember that. I think you're in football.
I was going to say it's
baseball
more
and basketball country.
No, and I understood it. I obviously was like, well, I know why this is happening, but it's just crazy to see it, firsthand that, you have all 4 sports, but you really only showcase at least 3 of the 4, and even that's a little much because it was more or less 2 of the 4. I saw more Suns and Diamondback stuff than I did. Actually, even the Cardinals too. I didn't see a lot of that stuff either, surprisingly, but they've been pretty garbage the past few years, so I understand why. But yeah, the Coyote stuff just wasn't like really flying off the shelf.
It's tough, man, because I always thought that some people don't get it, and I always thought that the Coyotes was kind of a cool thing, like a desert-themed hockey team. I think it's kind of cool. I feel like it's kind of like, I think I may have said this before. It's the marriage of like real 90s stuff, right? It's like the marriage of the Mighty Ducks and Taco Bell, and you have the Arizona Coyotes. Yeah. So I'm glad you got to go out there and see what it's like. I don't know. I mean, I think anybody who's been around the NHL, or obviously a fan of the NHL for a long time, it just seems like every summer, it could be the last summer that the Arizona Coyotes are in the Arizona desert. It does seem like they're trying to get themselves a new arena. I think that the league has wanted that franchise to work for a long time, and I think that something that nobody really talks about is that the players like the lifestyle there. So players like living in Phoenix area, Arizona area. There's great colleges out there. It's a good place to be young, I guess. So hopefully they get that resolved.
Yeah, and we also wanted to bring something up of you that you're very into baseball. We both are, especially in the minor leagues. You actually got to go to your first Yard Goats game this past week. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. It was a really interesting experience. That is a fantastic ballpark. It's a fantastic night out. If you haven't gone up to Hartford to check out the baseball team, they're affiliated with the Colorado Rockies. It's a great experience up there. I really enjoyed it. But one thing I was a little disappointed in was, there's two little things. First thing is that the hot dogs were just absolutely terrible. It was the worst hot dog I think I've had in a long time at a ballpark. And I think that there's an interesting conversation we need to start having in this country. Have ballparks, has the sporting venue, has it outgrown the hot dog? And are we now just looking at plates of barbecue and like full-sized pizzas and stuff that people are munching on at baseball games now? It's a really interesting time, I think, to be somebody that goes looking for a hot dog at a baseball game. So I was a little disappointed in what Hartford had going on there, but otherwise it was a really amazing experience. It's great for Hartford. I mean, you can just feel new life and energy when you walk through that stadium. It's a great place to be. A little disappointed, though, that there hasn't been more progress just like right around the ballpark. I can't figure out for the life of me, why like a Frank Pepe's hasn't opened up right outside, or something along the same lines like a Brewport, which exists outside the Bridgeport Islanders Arena. So I'm just kind of unsure as to what the neighborhood around the ballpark is going to be up there. They've been, I guess, in business since 2017. I'm not sure when that park opened.
Yeah, it was
maybe it was 2017. I think they played the first season on the road, though. The whole season.
Might be.
Almost sure of it. But I enjoyed it there. It's definitely a great thing for Hartford. And I think as the neighborhood around the stadium develops, there's a potential for a new Hartford. I don't know if anybody knows, it doesn't seem like they had a great season with the soccer team in Hartford. Hartford Athletic, I mean, that seems like a beautiful little stadium. It's crawling distance to the Thomas Hooker Brewery location right there by the soccer stadium. So, listen, the sports teams are there. It'd be great, if the businesses and the local entrepreneurs start to move into Hartford a little bit, open up those local businesses, restaurants, and really any other type of business that might attract people to the area. Create more of a neighborhood vibe right there, because it's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, and then also while I was on vacation, there was a special event, if you will, where the mascot had its name unveiled. I unfortunately couldn't attend, but Matt, you were there. Tell us a little bit about it.
It was really great. One thing that's great about just following the Hat Tricks and being around the team is that there really is kind of year-round support. Obviously, the numbers get a little different when you get into the summer months, and it was a really good crowd. I bet you they had about 65 people there, 75 people. By now, everybody knows that the mascot's name will be Thumper. There's an allegation out there, it's not confirmed, that Joe Trench came up with this name, or at least it was the name that he submitted. So yeah, it's great to see the team get a mascot. It makes hockey so much fun. There's, I think we could do a little better job on the outfit, the costume that Thumper wears. Like, it'd be nice to maybe see some of the logos of some of the sponsors on the jersey. I'm not sure why he wears just an NAHL jersey or an NA3 jersey. But, again, he's growing into himself, Thumper. And I think we're going to have, I think we're going to have a presentable mascot by the time the season starts, or at least somewhere in the middle of it. So, Thumper, welcome to the crowd. And, look forward to spending more time with you, pal.
And, speaking of NA, we actually got the amazing chance to speak with the head coach of the NAHL junior team, Patrik Stefan, also a first pick overall in the first round of the 1999 NHL Draft. An amazing conversation, which you should stay tuned for.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of the best interviews we've done here on Hat Trick City. It's always kind of special when you get somebody like Patrik, who played in the NHL for so long. I think you're over 400 some odd games, maybe 450. So, it like I said, it was really great having him on. Very candid guy, very friendly guy. Yeah, 455 games in the NHL. So, again, great to have somebody with that type of experience come and talk to us. And I think it's also great to have somebody with that type of experience coaching the junior team. Obviously, the people watching closest know it's been kind of a struggle to get that program to where we want it to be. Just as fans and people who go to the rink and stuff like that. But I think that when we get everything in place, I think it will be a good opportunity. And it's great hockey. If you like the pro hat tricks, this is something similar. It's a fast game. It's very physical. These guys are hungry. They're playing for college scholarships. Some of them are NHL draft picks. So it would be great if we could get more of the listeners just interested in going down to those games. I know it's tough. It's another brand of hockey to kind of get used to and learn. But if you really want it, it's there for you. So I'm looking forward to going down to a few of these games. We don't really cover these guys on a day-to-day basis here on the show, but I do think it's something that I think the fans should take advantage of. For sure.
And speaking of which, they'll be playing this weekend at home on the 8th and 9th at 7 p.m. So if you want to come down, see the season opener for them, definitely come on down.
Yeah, against the New Jersey Titans, right?
Correctamundo, sir.
Awesome.
And now, without further ado, here is our interview with Patrik Stefan.
This is Danbury Hat Tricks head coach Billy McCreary, and you're listening to Hat Trick City Radio on WXCI 91.7 FM.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We now have on one of the Null's very own, Logan Nickerson. Logan, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Logan, it's a pleasure to have you here in the studio. Actually, the first Null player we've had here in studio during the show's run. Logan, how have you been during the summer? Anything in particular you've been working on?
It was a pretty long summer for me. I had to get surgery on my shoulder, so that took up a pretty big chunk of my summer. But worked through it and just ready to be back here and get the season going.
I think we failed to mention in the intro that you're a Connecticut native. You're from right here in the Nutmeg State.
I am, yeah.
Tell us, where did you grow up playing? Where was your home rink and stuff?
I first started out at Wesleyan University, where I actually took my first steps skating, and then skated at Cromwell for a while, and then finally played at Elite Hockey Academy right in Northford, Connecticut.
When you were growing up, what position did you play?
I was always a forward.
You were always a forward the whole time. And now, you have is he your uncle or your cousin, Matt Nickerson, who was a professional player for a long time?
Yeah, my cousin played in the Null, actually, and then got drafted to the Dallas Stars a while back.
And he definitely played in the AHL and I think England for a while. He's been on a bunch of podcasts. He has a lot of good stories. I don't think he's been on Spittin' Chicklets. Maybe he has been.
I'm not too sure.
But,
I mean, I could check.
But he's been on a lot of podcasts. He's great. Are you in touch with him much?
Yeah, I live in East Haddam, Connecticut, and he lives in Old Lyme, so it's only like a 10-minute car ride, so we always see each other.
What is he up to these days?
He's just working. He just had a newborn, so
cool.
Yeah, not too much.
How did you find your way here to Danbury, like to play for the junior hat tricks in the NAHL?
So I was playing my 16U year at Elite Hockey Academy, and Billy McCreary, and I forgot the other guy's name. He's no longer a coach. Just reached out to my coach, Peter Alden, and offered me a tender. And I was like, yeah, I want to play in Danbury, close to home, where my family can watch my games and I can go home on the weekends when we have nothing. It was just ideal for me.
And you live at Billy's house, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, so you're the babysitter, I guess.
I actually am, yeah. I was watching Little Isla this morning while they went out and got some groceries and stuff.
Tell us just a little bit about kind of the experience of playing in this league. So I really don't know if all of our listeners kind of are in tune with what the NAHL is all about and kind of what you're going for in the league.
So the NHL is just a opportunity to go to college D1. So a lot of just regular college students go to college right after high school. But for us hockey players, we need extra time and development to excel in our game. So we go to all these different junior leagues where we can just take however many years, 3 years, 2 years, a year, to just excel in our development and get the best offer we can to a D1 or D3 college.
So, and you're also, some of the players, not all of them, but some of them actually take some online college classes and stuff to try and get, I guess, on the same track as other guys your age, as you may work towards college, you know?
Yeah, there's a handful of guys on our team this year that are taking online classes just to stay like ahead for junior players, or just to keep up with their education, so they're not just not doing anything when they're at home.
Tell us a little bit about, obviously you're hoping to get to that high level of college hockey, and what are you doing? What's your schedule like now? You know, you don't go to school full time or anything. You're, as I always tell Billy, it's junior professional. That's what junior hockey like literally means, junior professional. So it's this kind of it's kind of this proving ground to get to that college level and to get to that pro level. Like, what's your day-to-day schedule like? What's the stuff you do also outside of practice, you know?
So a day-to-day is pretty simple. It's wake up, get some breakfast in ya, and then around noon you're heading to the rink, and then you have like video meetings, and then you have like a workout and stuff, and then you're on the ice for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then once you're done at the rink, it's pretty much like 3-4 o'clock. So you just go home, eat dinner, and then do it all over the next day.
Is there anything that you work on yourself kind of outside of what the team is doing in its normal routine?
It depends. There's a lot of stuff that goes into like junior hockey. So right now I'm registering for like college classes online. So that's a main focus for me right now, is just to start doing my school, as it is my last year in junior hockey. So I really have to make that step. But yeah, other than that, there's not really much I do like outside of the rink. I like to relax and just take it easy.
And you mentioned taking it easy. Are there any kind of places you like to go to in Danbury, any things to see or even to eat?
Oh, to eat, there's a handful of them. We got Mina's right down the road. We got Captain's Corner Deli. A lot of the guys go to the mall, get some nice Chick-fil-A, some Chinese, There's a handful of places around here that are excellent.
And, last season you had 2 different coaches during the tenure of the season. Kind of take us through that transition period between Voidy and Stefan, at least from your shoes.
Yeah, from my shoes, it was really big difference between the 2 coaching staffs. Voidy obviously was more goalie focused, so he took a lot of pride in the goaltending, and he didn't really know a whole lot about offense and all that. since he was a goalie himself. And then when the coaching change happened, Patrik obviously was a first-round draft pick, so he was more the offensive skill, go, scoring goals and working on all that. So it was a big difference for us to really get used to how different the coaching was.
Different approaches to the game, I guess, is really what it is. And ultimately, it's nice to see Patrik get a fresh start and to give him a chance to kind of come in and implement his ideas. And we're going to, we'll talk to him about that. In his segment, we speak to him about it. But I think it's really, I think it's the two quality goalies that came through the Danbury junior hat trick system recently that are going to make the program a little more visible to the hockey world and possibly help kind of recruit players. If you have NHL draft picks and guys that are playing in the World Juniors, kind of playing their club games here out of Danbury, that's huge for recruiting. I mean, there's, my brother's a college basketball coach. There's nothing bigger in the recruiting process than when you tell them that you got 10 NBA players behind you and that you've helped these guys get to the next level all over the world and everything. And that's really going to help. The Danbury Junior Hat Tricks, it was a young program. It didn't really start until what would have been the Hat Tricks organization's second season.
Correct.
Which would have been the Pro Hat Trick second season, but it was the first season for that NAHL team. And it was the COVID year. And things were impossible at that time. There was a fantastic brawl that year that I was at. But I can tell you that, make no mistake, there's a lot of potential with this Danbury Junior Hat Tricks program in the sense that we're only coming into like year 4 of its existence. 1.5 of those years was like a COVID year. I think that these players that I know Matt Voidy had a big hand in bringing the two goalies. Pat, what are their names?
Patrik Stefan and Thomas Kieswetter.
I know that Voidy had a big hand in that, and it's great to see, a guy who played his college hockey right here at Western Connecticut State, pretty much a Danbury guy, bring those international type talent to Danbury and to the program. And ultimately, that's going to be a fantastic recruiting tool, not just for other players, but ultimately fans. I mean, these guys are going to be in college hockey very soon. College hockey is about to sweep across the state of Connecticut, especially after that Quinnipiac championship. It'll never really compare to what we do in Danbury. As the pro team, it'll never really compete with that just because it's a totally different brand of hockey. But make no mistake, college hockey is about to take off in Connecticut. These 2 new buildings are on campus. It's going to reignite a lot of alumni feelings and all that. So, just be prepared that this is going to be a stop on the map for a lot of college hockey guys. A lot of college hockey coaches will probably be coming through here in the next years, especially if we keep bringing talented guys like these goalies in, guys like Logan Nickerson here who've been playing hard. So it is going to take time. I'm not giving, again, you have to be critical that there's, maybe the team could be marketed a little better, and maybe there's some obstacles in terms of opportunities to bring fans in. But make no mistake, this is great hockey, and it's just going to take a while. No Division I program, in terms of wins and losses, would be much further along than we are with than the Danbury Junior Hat Tricks are. You dig what I'm saying? By season 4, you're lucky if you have a winning season. If let's say you become a D1 team, you're lucky to have a winning season by season 4, with a coach that you can trust and a fan base that cares. So right now it's baby steps, bringing in these players that want to win and guys that are clearly world class talents. It's only going to help. So I think that's why Pat and I chose to kind of do this episode, is because we are on the eve, basically, of opening night for the junior hat tricks. And we really didn't get them on that much last season, and I think people want to hear from these guys. And I also think that if you really love hockey, like if you if you miss the Hat Tricks pro team when they're on the road, you really should go to the NHL games. They're really entertaining. These guys, they're playing hard. They're skating really fast. It's scrappy at times, but it's also really entertaining. You know, and that's what I can say. I can't make it down as much as I'd like to be quite honest. But when I do get a chance to pass by, I do.
Yeah, and working these games for the past 2 seasons has just been an absolute treat. I mean, seeing a different product from the pro team is always nice to see, because you guys just are there. There's more, not more necessarily, but in terms of what your guys are going for, the hunger, it just shows, and I love that a lot. Going into this weekend, we're playing against the New Jersey Titans. How do you feel about this weekend going into it? What are some things you kind of worked on?
I'm super excited about it. First 2 games of the season, it was a long off season for the guys. We've just been focusing on our offensive ability just to score goals, and our team bonding, so everyone's just as close as they can be, and just overall everything. We're just starting new this year, forgetting about the past 4 seasons, whatever. But yeah, I'm super excited.
And then this year too, the league has also added 2 new teams to our conference. What are your thoughts on getting a few extra games in the season there?
Also super excited about that. Rochester, great city, great atmosphere. I've seen what they're doing on their social media. Super excited. They're supposed to be pretty good, and it's going to be a challenge, but I think we can hang in there with them. So, and then New Hampshire, that's also a great city. So it's going to be fun.
What's your favorite building to play in this league?
Ooh, I think it's pretty close between Maryland and Johnstown.
Really?
Yeah.
What's Maryland's building like?
It's not like our building, Danbury. It's super small, kind of like a youth rink, but they get a lot of fans there, so it gets rowdy.
What's the I'm always curious, and maybe this is the year that Pat and I tag along for that trip if Patrik Stefan will let us on the bus. What's the Lewiston and Maine rink like?
That's an awesome rink too. It's huge. It's got that just atmosphere. Fans just love hockey. They go there just to support these young kids trying to make it, and they do a great job doing it.
You think they get? Like I said, I've never been up there yet. You think they get a lot of fans, or?
Yeah, they get a bunch. I mean, it's a pretty small city in Maine, so it's not holy.
Does the building feel full?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Do you know that Muhammad Ali knocked out Sonny Liston there?
I do.
Yeah. I think that's why we have to make that trip, just to say that we went there. It's weird. Yeah. It almost feels like it's weird that I haven't been there yet, because that's a trip I definitely would have made. It's a pretty far ride.
Yeah, what,
It's 4
or 5 hours from here. Yeah. What's your least favorite rink to play in the league?
I don't even know. There's a few of them that are just the fans are obnoxious. They're throwing things at you, yelling at you, calling a bunch of names. So
you guys have had some good battles with this. I didn't know how I felt about it at the beginning, but I know they've been successful in the last couple of years, but you guys had some good battles with this Titans team, know, back and forth. I mean, I think we've stolen a few games from them over the years, and I like that type of a rivalry. That's a great area for hockey. I wish New Jersey, somewhere like that, was in the Fed. I know they only get 250 people at the Titans games, but in any case, that's another place where I feel could have that potential vibe. If somebody could, you'd have to find the right person willing to sink the right money into a Jersey rink to be in the Federal League, but I feel like that vibe totally is kind of the same thing. People love Flyers hockey and Devils hockey and Rangers hockey in Jersey. You know what I mean? So it'd be great to see that happen. And I'm looking forward to the NHL games this weekend. I'm definitely going to be around Friday night.
Yeah, and I'll be there too. I mean, doing the usual thing that I do with announcing and stuff like that. But Logan, is there anything you want to tell the fans, what they should kind of expect going into this weekend?
Yeah, if it's not the level like the Fed, but it's young kids that are just trying to make it D1 and be professional. So like the hunger, as you said, is there. Like we give it everything we got every night. So if you're looking for a high compete and scrappy game, like these NHL games are to die for. Like I think around here in Danbury, a lot of what our problem is that the Fed team gets all the hype, and we're kind of like on the back burner because not a lot of people around like really know what we're about.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a little bit of the thing. I've actually been on, believe it or not, the Lewiston, the Maine Nordiques message board they have on Facebook, and I was poking around there a few years ago. And basically a lot of the people kind of said is that this team really works here for us because everybody's a big college hockey fan up there. And they see these guys. I mean, a few years ago, that year that we had the brawl against them in Danbury, they probably had 5 D1 guys on that team, right in that lineup that day. Maybe not, but a few of them. I think one of them is playing at LIU. I think his name was Isaiah Fox, maybe, and then Antonacci, whose father owned the Maine team, is at Maine now, actually with the Black Bears. So it's just one of those things where I think that working together with just kind of bouncing it off a little bit of the pro team. I hope this season, and I hope Pat and I have talked, and maybe we can do some things to help. Just get. I think we do this just to let people know hockey's here and kind of what comes out of hockey. I don't know if it's a sense that we're covering the team or we're just talking about it most of the time. But yeah, I think more people should go out to the games. There's a lot of talent out there, and in these other areas in New England, I guess it's a little more, well, at least Maine and, places like that. I think they're a little more familiar with college hockey and what can happen with it. So it makes NAHL a lot easier for them to digest. It's like, oh, I get it. It's these guys are trying to get to the, it's a little similar to like kind of high school basketball in New York City or maybe football in Texas. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this is this level where these guys get to the next level. And I think that there's people around, and the games are free to get into, which is really cool. Is that, there's really no admission. And from what we heard, and again, you would have to confirm, but what we heard, there's going to be, a little more entertainment this year, and the bars are going to be open, which hadn't been happening in the past. I think we're going to see that. So it's going to be a great option for entertainment, especially with no admission, no cost of the ticket. And like I said, there's going to be, and one thing that it does have the advantage of is the guys who go to the Fed, most of them advance to AA leagues, and they advance to the SPHL, a little higher of an A league, and then the AA leagues, ECHL, AAA league. Some guys have gotten to the AHL. I think we had a few guys getting the games over the years from the Fed.
Yeah, Willie.
But you're gonna see just the way it works. So there's definitely going to be somebody who played in Danbury, whether for or against us, that'll be in the Frozen Four, almost guaranteed in the next couple of years. It's just a numbers game. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? If you came through here for the Danbury Junior Hat-Tricks or one of our opponents, it's just a numbers game that we'll see you in the Frozen Four in the next couple of years. There's less than 100 Division I hockey teams, and that's probably challenging. How hard has that been for you with the recruiting process? I don't know if you have an advisor. How does it work for you at this point?
Yeah, there's many kids that have advisors that do a lot of the work for them where they don't really have to think about that part of the sport, where they can just go out and do their thing on the ice, and then their advisor really helps them talk to colleges, get colleges to watch them play. So for me, I never got an advisor. I always had that coach that really took that extra step for me and helped me to move on and get to where I am now. So I really never thought it was a really good decision to get an advisor, because advisors, they're expensive. They're like,
how does it work?
It's like every month you got to pay them so much, and then if you do make it to like the pros, they get a good percentage of what you make. So it's really complicated, but they're definitely helpful to get to where you want to be.
So, you had a cousin in Matt Nickerson who played in the NAHL with Billy McCreary, but he played 1 year of Division I hockey at Clarkson, and then he went to Major Juniors in the Quebec League. Has he ever given you any advice or talked about his experience?
Well, his experience was a little different than nowadays. He was a big fighter. That's what he's known for. So every conversation I've had with him about hockey, it's always fighting tips, telling me what to do or how to do it. So the game's changed a lot since he played, so I can't really take those tips too much.
I mean, he's younger than me. Have you ever talked to him about coming out here to play for Danbury?
Yeah, me and we've talked about it quite a few times.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah, it would be a great show for the fans here in Danbury.
Any interest on his end, or
no? Since he has a newborn, it's kind of like he's chilled out a lot.
I wonder if he ever really considered it.
Probably. I mean, once you play hockey and you've done hockey your whole life, it's just in your blood. So
when did you start playing?
I started playing when I was 4.
Wow.
I was young.
Was your dad into the game, or?
No.
Wow.
He didn't play any college sports. Neither did my mom. So I really just my dad put me into hockey because of my cousin.
Wow. And when was he a big Bruins? You said your family's kind of split between the New York and Boston sports, but was he a big Bruins fan, or was that part of your treks to see the Bruins play? Or?
Yeah, my dad was always big into watching hockey. So every time the Bruins played, it was on the TV. We sat down, watched it. We went to a bunch of preseason games down in Bridgeport that I can remember. So, going to all these games, a lot of the Hartford Wolfpack games when I was young. So we were always in the ring watching, no matter what, college hockey, AHL, preseason Bruins games. So that definitely had a big part in why I play.
How's the living dynamic working with you and Billy, considering that he's such a Maple Leafs fan?
We don't really talk about it. He puts on the Maple Leafs games, and I just kind of sit down and watch it.
Are you a big watcher? Do you watch a lot?
Yeah. I mean, being in that household, it's all hockey.
At this age and stuff, who's the guy you like to watch the most? You check his stat line and stuff.
As a NHL player?
Yeah.
Well, it used to be Patrice Bergeron. He was my idol player, but he's retired now, so I'll probably check up on Connor Bedard.
Wow. Yeah.
Now that he's
everybody's
17.
looking to see what he'll do. What is your take on? I mean, you're a little older than him now. What's it like for you to watch a kid like that about to make probably play right away, right? I mean,
yeah. It's insane to even think about he's 2 years younger than me playing in the NHL. But it's he has a special talent that only one in a million players have. So it's obviously good for him. But that's where I want to be. That's where a bunch of kids want to be. And these journeys take a little bit longer for some and a lot shorter for others.
Guys always talk about this when they come on the show. Did you play against anybody that's in major college hockey or in major juniors or pro now? Or
Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of guys that I played that were really good at like youth hockey that are in college. So
Caught me on a bad change.
What were you doing there?
I was trying to get the mic off the stand. I want to hold it.
Behave.
Hey, listen, man. I don't know. I mean, I'm just excited for this weekend. It's like you said, it's been a long off season. I'm excited to see how these guys are going to come out against New Jersey this weekend. Matt, you're definitely gonna be there.
Yeah, I'll come down Friday night for sure and see what's happening with you guys. And like I said, I think there's a special place for this NAHL team in Danbury right now. There's people like myself. I'm interested to see what happens. I know Billy cares about it. Billy McCreary cares about this NAHL team very deeply, and he's worked very hard to continue to establish it from what I can see. And I got to tell you, just like we said a little earlier, good things are happening with it. The season is new. We have a former NHL player coaching the team. I mean, that alone, to be honest, we don't get too many NHL guys mingling in the crowd or around the rink. Although I did meet Matt Molson randomly in the rink last year. But you have a guy like that who's accessible. He signs autograph. He signed Pat's water bottle yesterday. It used to be my water bottle. I handed it down to him.
It was a Dallas Stars.
It was a Dallas Stars water bottle, and I think he's framed it now in like a glass box.
Yeah.
And then like we said on the development side, look, you have. Just like Logan said here, it's a scrappy game. It's fast. And then you have kids that are literally playing on some of the highest levels in the world right here in Danbury. And I think it's something that it's worth checking out more. I'm sure I will.
I mean, yeah, that sums it up pretty well. And, Logan, thanks for coming on the show. And again, best of luck to you and the guys this weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, he's got some babysitting to do.
Hey, this is Xavier Abdella, number 6 for the Danbury Hat-Tricks and Vermilion County Bobcats Hall of Famer. And you're listening to Hat-Trick City on WXCI. Go Rabbits, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen, today in the studio, we have a very special guest with us, the one and only Patrik Stefan, the head coach of the NAHL Danbury Junior Hat-Tricks. Patrik, how are you doing today?
I'm good. The one and only? Wow.
The one and only.
Well, there's only one Patrik Stefan, and I remember when the announcement was made that you were going to be the coach, and I was like, how the hell did we get this guy here? Just all of a sudden you randomly show up. How did you get to this area?
I mean, obviously it started with my son, that he was drafted here and then had the opportunity to play here. Last year is his first year. I want to get into coaching. I want to be coaching at the junior level. Obviously I had some pretty good experience at the youth level, midget level. Coach at the Little Caesars in Detroit, and then just want to take a step here in my coaching career, and then want to hit the junior level, and this opportunity kind of came around that spoke to Billy, and obviously my son was on the team, so he kind of just met up and saw the situation and saw the opportunity for me to just come in here and then maybe change some things around and then start my junior career as a coach.
Where did you live full time? Like, where's your home full time?
Well, I don't have a full-time home anymore right now. Over the last few years, we've been kind of on the road quite a bit. My oldest son plays on the West Coast in the WHL.
Wow.
My younger son was in Michigan, and then obviously last year here. My wife is from California. I'm from Czech. We've been into Michigan for the past 6-7 years because both of my boys play youth level there. So we kind of spend the summers there. But now, obviously, my son is on the West Coast. My younger son is here, and I'm here as well, and so is my wife.
For some of our listeners who don't know Patrik Stefan's background, you were the number 1 overall pick in the 1999 NHL Draft, but you actually stand out for me for a really unique reason. You're not going to know what it is right away. You were drafted from the old International Hockey League, and there was really only a handful of guys, definitely not many number 1 picks to get picked from the old IHL. I think Peter Sikora who played for the Devils. Did he play
Yep.
for the Vipers in
Yep.
Detroit for a little while before he got picked? What was it like back then? How did you break into the IHL? What was it some kind of stuff going on in the Czech Republic or?
So and I have another guy, Radek Bonk.
Radek, yeah, he played with
in
the
Las
Thunder,
Vegas.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
So this is the weird story about me, how I've been around minor league hockey so long. I don't know if I've told this story on the show before, but Pat knows it. So I had an uncle that moved out to Vegas in the early 90s.
Yep.
And all of those guys who played for the Las Vegas Thunder, Radek, Jeff Sharples was a guy who played in the NHL for a long time. They all lived in my uncle's complex. And he would take their mail in and drive them to the airport and pick up chicks for them and all this stuff. So I knew everything that was going on. How did you get to the IHL?
So I mean, I was playing in Czech. I was just starting to play my pro level there at 16, turning into 17, and then during I think it was in Nagano Olympics, I was essentially allowed to leave Czech during a month break and then come into IHL and just to try out, what it feels like to play in North America. Obviously, through my agent, didn't know really much about the IHL. There was one Czech player on the IHL team in Long Beach, so we connected and it just kind of gave me some insight on the league. So I was coming in just for the trial, just for to try it out for like a month and then play maybe 10, 15 games. And obviously, a year and a half later, I never went back home because I really. So what happened is that I really got a good opportunity. I felt like it was potentially going to be my best development moving forward because, obviously NHL was my dream. Felt like the North American style, and not just on the ice, but off the ice, the language, different lifestyle, all of that can kind of potentially prepare me for the next step. So I, stick around and then play for Long Beach for a year and a half before I was drafted. So that's kind of my introduction to the IHL.
What was it like out there? Long Beach Ice Dogs had one of the most famous logos. I mean, you're living in Snoop Dogg's hometown, basically. What was it like?
Well, let me put it this way. I mean, I come to the rink in shorts and T-shirts and flip-flops all season. The rink is right on the beach, pretty much.
Just like here.
For me, coming from Czech, it was, it was a little bit of a wow factor, outside of the game. But I found that the IHL was actually an interesting league, and maybe that's why also I stick around for the year and a half, is that because it wasn't a typical AHL, like a minor league teams. There were some minor league teams involved in this, but I felt like lots of older players that may potentially still be good enough for NHL, but not maybe anymore were playing the IHL. So made the league a lot more competitive. There was a lot more skill in the league too as well. And obviously Long Beach, when I got there and when I got to know about Long Beach, I mean, every year they were at the top. Every year that they produced some good players. Good coaching. John van Boxmeer was my head coach there, and it really took me in. Really good group of players and the guys who actually had some taste or even some experience at NHL level, which I found it was really good for me because I got to learn from some of these guys, and just the daily habits and things they do. So I found it really, really helpful to me and in some ways very exciting. But, going to Long Beach, California, my first experience in North America, ring right on the beach. Yeah, it was a little bit of a shocker.
It's kind of similar to kind of that Austin Matthews move in some ways, right? Didn't he play pro in was it Austria?
Yeah, he went to Switzerland. I think.
Switzerland, yeah, maybe. Yeah. What like at that time in the IHL you're playing, you put up okay numbers. My question to you is did you think you were going to be the first overall pick in '99?
I mean, that was my dream. Essentially, I think that's you're trying to get drafted. And then obviously that, maybe a couple of years before the draft, there's some hype about some players. I think there's been some talks about, myself. The Sedin twins were there. A couple other players, North American players, were mentioned too in, just a year or 2 years prior. So, I mean, there's been talk about it. So, I wouldn't say it was on my mind, a lot, but something I was, obviously shooting for. And I think that, when you have that, potential to be number one pick. I mean, you kind of shooting towards, you want to play in the National Hockey League, but, being drafted first will be pretty incredible, amazing. I didn't know that's going to happen, to be honest. Until pretty much, a few minutes before the,
really?
They announced my name because, I kind of had idea, potentially going to Atlanta. and I think they were picking third overall. So I felt like I was going to potentially go to third overall to Atlanta. They made a trade.
Yeah.
Right, I think just a few minutes before they were picking first. And then when they made the trade, I was like, holy crap, I may be going first. And that's kind of how it, went down. And so I really have no idea I've been going first overall until probably the last maybe, seconds or minutes prior.
A trade from Tampa Bay via Vancouver, yeah.
It was a multiple trade. I think there was so many players involved, and I think that Vancouver was trying to get the Sedin twins, so there was I think it was just so much going on in that trade, multiple teams that essentially Atlanta ended up in the first overall position, and obviously it drafted me. So
coaching over here now with these junior kids, they're trying to get the opportunity. Mostly here with NAHL, they're trying to get that college opportunity.
Yep.
But the last year or so that you've been involved here, do you think back a lot about that time and how you were handled as a player around these guys' age? Or
no, I think that for me as a coach and as a former player, not every former player, doesn't matter what level you play, is going to make it to be a good coach. I think coaching, there's so much more involved in that. There's just knowing the game. But what I found is interesting, you just mentioned that, is that, when you go through experience as a player, ups and downs, adversity, different levels, it gives you that little bit of the insight on you kind of know what the boys feeling and what they're going through, ups and downs. Like obviously last year was a tough year for this organization and for our team and for the players. But also same time, I kind of knew how they felt, and knew what kind of mindset they were in. I remember my first year in Atlanta, we won 13 hockey games out of 82. So that was not fun.
No, right.
But I remember I was in the locker room. I remember how I handled that. I remember the older guys, how they, handled the situation. So this way, in some ways, as going through some of these tough experiences, kind of give me potentially some positive things that, I can relate to that and then help them out in that, going through this process, when you're struggling, when you, going through adversity, or when you're playing well either. So I think that's something maybe, me, because I was a former player and going through some of these things can really help these guys.
In that 1999-2000 season, you said the Thrashers were struggling. How did that impact the player that you became in the NHL?
I think it was a for sure tough go for me as a young guy. And then
who was the coach?
So we had Kurt Fraser, and then I think he came from Orlando Cerberus, the AHL team, or maybe even IHL team that time before that. And it was also first year for him. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot going on. And then, it's back then, it's not like now expansion team can really load up, right?
Yeah.
There's different rules. They can really get some good players right away from, other teams. Back then, with us, that was not in the case, so... we were not able to get, obviously the better players from other teams. So it took some time. And then for younger player, obviously come into the league, I felt like I was more ready because I play in IHL. But what you realize is that, it's a tough league. It's a business. It's a winning kind of culture for anybody, coach, organization. So that was not the easiest way, that kind of introduction, for me to National Hockey League. It was a struggle, and not just the first year, but first couple of years, until we got some players, and we changed a coach, I think in our third year. So it took some time to really kind of build up, the organization and get, into the better place in regards to their just, culture, winning, players.
There was some vets on that team, Andrew Burnett, Ray Ferraro. Mike Stapleton, who played for years.
Kelly Buckberger from Edmonton. I think he was our captain. He was kind of the guy who kind of took me under his wing, which was great leadership, great leader, great human being. I've been around for a long time, obviously, playing in Edmonton.
A lot of legends. Whaler legend Kevin Dean. Dom Naselli, another one of the great hockey names of all time.
I think we went through I don't know if I think we went through 45 players.
That first year?
I think we had 6 goalies as a starters in that year. So,
do you think you had played a few years in the American minor leagues?
Yep.
Again, it was a great level of hockey in the IHL, but I still think that even then most people considered it a minor league.
Yep.
Did you think, just the way it worked, did you have any idea? Did you think you were going to spend that much time in the NHL the first season? Did you think you might have had a chance to go up and down, get a little taste, or was it going to be a play, no matter what type of situation.
So for me, that time I want to play in the NHL.
Yeah.
Right? Like I want to play whole season. That was my whole dream, whole goal, and that's what I wanted to do. Looking back and obviously going through experience.
How old were you?
I was 18.
Yeah.
Could have been better for me to maybe develop a little bit more in the minor league team, in minors. Yeah, I think so. Especially I think because maybe not so much about just me as a player, but about where the organization was at the time.
The team wasn't winning, yeah.
And it's I think it's tough to bring younger player to that. I didn't know that at 18, and obviously now I know it later on. Because I've been through that and experienced that. It's a tough situation. I mean, winning does a lot. You can when you lose and lose and lose, it's tougher for the coach, tougher for the players. Environment, it's not easy either and fun. So was I happy that I got to play the first year? Yes. Was it better for me to maybe split time or get some time in the minors? I think so. Yeah.
When you're that number one pick again, I think we just think in the American sense of things, right? You're the number one pick. You're going to be leaned on to be a contributor and to contribute every night. Let me ask you something. Was that your game? Were you the guy, as a younger kid, were you the guy who scored 5 points in a game, or were you the guy who had 2 points and a really good game otherwise,
Yeah, I don't know if I was I don't think I was really like a leader or like a guy who is go-to guy. And also reason for that is that, I mean, ever since I was 11, 12 years old, I always play up.
Yeah.
Always play up a level, all the kids, so it's hard to be the go-to guy when you by far the youngest guy on the team. So I always have to catch up, to that level. Which my hockey sense, I think I was a very good player, but I wasn't like, and that's why you see some of these, sometimes, the junior players, they play at the level for 2-3 years. By the second or third year, they put up 150, 160 points, and just dominated the league. I was never really dominating any leagues because, like I said, I was playing up a lot, with a lot older players playing at the pro level at 16 years old. Like, you were never kind of in a position to be just really dominant at your level. And then, by the way, before I went to IHL, play Long Beach, but I was drafted by a WHL team, I think it was Edmonton Ice, the same year. So they were hoping that I'm going to go play there year before my draft.
Wow.
So now look at it back, it's like, sure, I went there maybe, and they'd be like, I can be really go-to guy and kind of maybe experience that kind of level, of play. But it doesn't matter what, you can take back what happened. But, your answer your question, that no, I mean, I was a very good player, but I was never really playing at the level like, I was really dominant, 5-6 points a night.
Right.
I just dominated that league because, like I said, I was just playing up much.
Something that we see here in Danbury a little bit too is when the guys come over from the foreign countries, there's usually an agent or an advisor. Or who were you getting advice from in those days?
Well, I mean, it was my advisor, my agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I had a guy in Czech who I become almost like my dad. I really enjoy, I really like, but he was in Czech. He didn't really know much in North America. So, I mean, you get these, advisors, agents, they're trying to help you out. But like at the end of the day, there's only so much they can do. Like they don't really know the ins and outs. They don't know the locker room stuff. They don't know, colleges and other things. So, and then, you mentioned like, European player. I think that's, as much as you're learning the style on the ice, because obviously it's a smaller rink, you have to react quicker, everything happens faster. It's also off the ice too, because I mean it's a different culture, here in North America compared to Europe.
On the by 03-04, that was like right before the lockout season. I guess you were an assistant alternate captain on the team, and you were up to about 40 points in 82 games, so point every other game guy. What happens to you when the lockout comes? It seems like you're making that stride and you're beginning to get into that every shift type of a guy. What happens? And again, it's no fault of yours. It's just the way the world.
I mean, developed. I don't. I hate looking at excuses and things and whining about things. That year, obviously, that was a really fun year for me. I got to play with two obviously very good players. I got to play with Marian Hossa and then Slava Kozlov.
Yeah.
Two pretty good players to
Incredible
play with.
At the end.
So, my production was there a lot better. Yeah, I got to 40 points, which I think is pretty reasonable for, National Hockey League in the season. Felt good about myself. Yeah, and then you get hit with lockout. So it's like basically, stop of the season. I ended up going to Finland. I think it was maybe November, December. I didn't go right away to somebody that, I ended up in Ilves, Tampere, a small town. in Finland. Got to play with Steve Kariya,
Wow.
Paul Kariya's brother,
Yeah,
which I
little
think was
brother.
very cool. We become very good friends.
That's cool.
So we had a fun playing together. I really enjoy Finland. I think Finland is pretty close, probably the closest thing in Europe to North America.
Really?
The way they train, the way they play, they have smaller rinks. So I really enjoyed that league. I thought it was fun. But again, I went from playing National Hockey League to basically playing, I think it was 30 games in Finland, and then trying to come back to National Hockey League, basically almost the entire year later.
The speed's got to be totally different.
Yeah, and then after that, I got traded, and it just I got injured. I had a bad hip, and then just everything kind of just, I don't say went down the hill, but yeah, it wasn't heading the directions I was hoping to be heading.
When did those injuries start for you?
Well, I've been with the hip and other things that really just happened when I got to Dallas. When I got traded there, I started having some issues with my hip, and then all of a sudden I find out it's like it's a pretty serious thing, and I got try to play through it that year in Dallas. Which another thing is that was the really first time, so I was in Atlanta and I got to Dallas, and you go to the place that there's a culture, there's winning, there's Mike Modano,
Right.
Martin Trucco, there's you're elected, there's the built organization that it's you talk about the leadership, and then just it's a winning organization. So it was amazing. Dave Tippett was my coach. I think great player coach kind of thing. I felt very good about where I am now, and it's almost like you're kind of getting second opportunity here. On a very good team, but again, just started training camp and battled through the injury, and then trying to stay in that in that season. Didn't want to get a surgery done, so just fight through that, and then had an okay season. But after that, I couldn't move. I couldn't really play anymore.
Before we get up to that, I wanted to ask you. You were with Atlanta. It seems like you played 1, 2, 3 parts of 4 or 5 seasons, right?
Yeah.
So, did you feel in the time that you were there? Did you feel like the management and all that? Do you think that they wanted you there? Did they want you to develop?
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that was the goal. I mean, I think that's, if they didn't want me, they probably wouldn't draft me first overall. I think that's
Well, you hear it before. Other guys, they get drafted so high, and then something changes, and then the new person doesn't know why they're there. And
yeah, I think that will really, I think the intentions was good, but obviously the process is different. You know, and a brand new team put together. I think the coach was brand new as well, right? First time head coach in National Hockey League. There were lots of firsts, first of this, first of that. So it takes some time, to kind of really gel and get it going. And it's really hard for the younger player.
yeah,
So I just, I wouldn't look at it like, oh, they didn't want me to be there or develop me there in some ways. I think it was just really a bunch of different things happening, in that span of a few years that, obviously didn't help me and didn't help the team either.
yeah. What happens when you get to Dallas? It was who was the coach? Tippett.
Dave Tippett, yeah.
Yeah. What was your relationship with the whole organization like?
Well, it was great, but I got there. So difference is that I got to Atlanta, and I was almost like that's the name as the franchise player. That's
Right.
And I got to Dallas. I'm like, I'm just a player there.
Yeah, trying to make the team.
Mike Modano, there's, they took me in and they really helped me out. They saw obviously a high draft pick, kind of maybe restarting his career. Great locker room, great leadership. I really enjoyed that. I was like, I wish I had that in my first year.
Yeah.
It would be a lot easier.
Right,
but,
when you got Mike Modano next to you in the locker room to talk to, hey, Mike,
Exactly. So it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. I was like, what? This is really helpful, and I feel like I'm kind of rejuvenating and kind of get it going again, But unfortunately, with the injury and then start having issues with the hip, it just kind of really slowed down everything, and then just
Is that what really ended your career there?
My hip,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know it'd be that serious. Having issues, like I said, tried to fight through the whole season. Even after the season, I had an arthroscopy surgery. I went back to Europe to try to play, and then trying to see if I can make it work. But my body and my hip, back then, probably doctors and the surgeons couldn't do the kind of miracles maybe they can do now. But I just I could barely walk. It was, I was 26, 27. It was, that whole year took a lot on me in some ways, because I battled through that, cortisone shots, just trying to fight through that. And I told myself, if I have to do this every year, that's hard.
What effect did kind of ending your career there, what did it have on you personally as a person? At 26, you're basically done, right? You're less than 10 years from your draft.
It was definitely probably one of the toughest times I had experienced. And also how it went down was that I went back to Europe, in Switzerland and Bern. So I signed a contract there. I played first, I think 4 or 5 games maybe, and I was like, I was hoping to play and just at least restart my career. They shut me down. It was basically game over. I had to stay in Switzerland for another 2 months by myself to do some paperwork or insurance or something like that. No wife, by myself, basically told me hey, you can't play hockey anymore.
Wow.
And you go figure out at 26. I'm like, I was hoping to play, I'm done 35, 40. I had some goals for that, and also not just that, but okay, so what am I going to do now? I'm 26. Hockey is the only thing I know.
Wow. I mean, what did you do?
Well, I struggled in the first couple of months, and when I was by myself there, I went back to U.S., back to North America, and thankfully, my agent in Czech, who was, like I said, almost like my second dad to me, basically asked me, hey, would you want to help me out, and then, and help me with players as agent? So I got into the agent business.
Wow. Right
away. I knew I was going to do something around hockey.
Right.
If it's going to be coaching, I was like, there's no way. I'm too quiet to be coach. I was never, the guy who was kind of just, upbeat and then talking on the bench. So I'm like, no, there's no chance. Scouting, for me, wasn't enough interest because I felt like scouting is just to go see a player's report and just not enough for me. And this agent stuff, become kind of really full-time thing. Really enjoy that because I got to work with some of the younger players. So I got to actually help them out with what I've been through. And
are you still able to do that? Or?
No, so I was an agent, for 15 years. And then about 2 years ago, I, on my own, gave up the certification because I can't coach at anything higher than the, youth or midget level and to be NHL certified.
I see.
So I give up the agency to fully pursue coaching.
Wow.
So I got some great 15 years of being agent, learned a lot, got lots of great experience, worked with, obviously some very good players. One of my clients and one of my best friends is actually playing for the Boston Bruins,
wow.
Right now. So it's, I learned a lot. It was really good. It was fun to be around that, and now, I got into coaching and full-time and really kind of pursue that.
Where were you based out of when you were an agent?
Well, I mean, I was in Michigan.
Uh-huh.
I started in California, but we had to move to Michigan for a couple of things. Obviously, both of my kids were really into hockey, so I think Michigan is, in my opinion, one of the best places to be. Competitive is, traveling-wise. And for me as an agent, it was a lot easier to travel. Obviously, on the West Coast, that's a lot to travel to be, spending time away from home and from my kids. And I want to be around my kids and help them. So we moved to Michigan and kind of really had the base in Michigan for 7-8 years.
Is just the two? You have the 2 boys?
2 boys, yeah. Yeah.
And let me ask you something. When you're coaching now, how much of it is stuff? Obviously, you learn how to play hockey in Europe. You kind of spent time in the old minor league system of the United States, and then you're an NHL teammate of a couple of legends there. What most of your tactics and stuff, where does it come from?
From everywhere, to be honest. I think and if we talk about it, I mentioned that, from the ups and downs, from diversity, from different style of coaches. I like to say that, I'm European. I like to mix the European with the North American style, if you put it this way. I like the skill, I like the puck position, but I also know that we are playing in North America. It's more, north to south, and higher pace and these things. So, I've been learning a lot, through the player, through the being agent, and even when I was coaching for 6-7 years at the lower levels, midget level and youth level, I got actually a chance to coach some pretty good players like Luke Hughes. I coached and we won a national championships together. I think it's 2019. So all through these experiences and being coached by coaches that they have different tactics. Some are being very hard, some are being more like a player coach. So I always try to take away I guess maybe the best out of all of them and kind of mix it together. So, I want to be known for being as a coach that, I care about the players. I care about the development. I think if you develop the players, you're going to start winning some hockey games. That's kind of how I feel about it, especially at the junior level. And, I want to push the players, but I want the players to make sure they understand, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to yell, scream, punish you over here. I'm here to help you. It can be through negative or positive feedback.
We've covered so much, but I feel like I still have stuff I want to ask you. What was your impression of Danbury hockey when you came here? What was your impression of what is and what could be?
So I got to tell you that one of the first things I noticed is that, for my team last year that I got to is that it was an unbelievable group of kids. You think about, what they've been through. It was a tough year, tough first, 2-3 months. And you walk into the locker room and how positive and they stick together. That was one of the first things I noticed because, I experienced it in a way, in Atlanta that, we won 13 hockey games. And it's tough. It's a tough locker room, because... Quiet, there's not much, I don't say leadership, but it sucks.
Camaraderie is missing.
Really suck, So for these guys and young kids, you talk about, they are, 18 to 20?
Some of them younger, right?
Even younger, yeah. So, having that kind of locker room and positive attitude throughout this, that was my first thing I really noticed. I was like, wow, And then, see, for me as a coach, when I see that, what they have to go through and they have that, was like, I can work with that, So, that was kind of my first, kind of notice, introduction to the Danbury, hockey team, organization, whatever it is over there. I got to know, obviously, a lot more Bill McCleary, just the organization, the pro guys, they've been great with just helping me, helping the guys. They've been really involved, last year, and even so now this summer, with helping on the ice and just giving some good pointers to the players. So I feel like now it's like it's a pretty good environment and family. It's kind of oriented in a way that you have the pro team, you have the now team and then a 3 team like all together. And now you have youth hockey too, right? In the hat tricks, they started. So I think there's obviously lots of positive things happening right now for the organization. So
why don't you today before we recorded today, there was a little bit of a scrimmage game, kind of intermingling some of the pro guys and the NAHL junior guys. What could you say you saw today?
Well, I wanted to do some kind of scrimmage, kind of game situation before we head to this first games against the Titans this weekend. And I had I have almost 5 lines still on the roster and the 24 skaters. So if I was going to have 2 teams, I have to, maybe fill a couple of spots. So I asked a couple of the pro guys if they'd be willing to jump on and just help out. And it was obviously they said yes. Whoever was in town, they enjoyed it, they had fun. And for me it was more of just to get the boys, and I don't want to say game shape, but the game situation awareness and things, because you can practice all day. It's nothing compared to the game. So I think this was kind of control scrimmage and just go out with a couple of pro guys. There was some fun up there. The boys had a good time. And for me, it was a chance to just kind of see them in the game setting, game mode, heading into the weekend.
And I guess you got your first 2 games this weekend?
Yeah. We have a Friday, Saturday, 7 p.m. against the Titans. It's a good way to start.
Yeah, in Jersey.
It's here.
It's at home. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, so home game Friday night and Saturday, I guess. So that'll be pretty good. Before we let you go, I'm sure you knew this was coming.
Did you say for the last? Okay.
I really want to only ask you about it.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling that if YouTube didn't exist, no one would think about it.
Okay. I think I got over a million hits.
Yeah, but let me ask you something. I this is not the first time I was in a situation like this. Many years ago, you might even remember this guy. Many years ago, former Clippers player Keith Kloss it was a different kind of a video. He was actually jumped outside of a club and it went online, and it was like an hour-long video, and I didn't want to ask him about it. This is a totally different thing. But I wanted to ask you, does it affect you? Does it play into your mind that this stupid video is out there?
It doesn't affect me anymore.
Right.
At the time, happened, it affected me. It affected me for a while. Everybody talks about it. You talk about YouTube. Yeah, it couldn't also happen at better players in Edmonton. And actually, not just Edmonton. We played back-to-back games that day, and then our second game was in Calgary.
Wow.
Right, so you imagine. And I think that they were playing that in the warm up in the jumbotron. Just showing that as well. So listen. I mean, it was incredible moment of disappointment and what happened. It happened so fast that actually I couldn't even really think about it because I was so shocked, and I think probably the entire team was so shocked. But there's a couple of things happened from that. Is that
Was that the end of the regular season?
No, I think it was maybe January, February.
Yeah.
So I think it was.
So it wasn't like the biggest deal. Like it was like it's not like it's the Stanley Cup Finals here.
But it was in Edmonton. So.
Yeah. Right. They're relentless there.
Yeah, but so it happens. Alex Hemsky, my countryman, scores on top of everything else. But what was happening and what was amazing about it is that how much support I got from my teammates.
Really.
And when you go through that, it's a tie hockey game. It's OT. I think we went to shootout.
Yeah.
And I think Martin Duco came to me. I was sitting at the bench for last 10 minutes, just basically by myself, I don't even know.
Fuck yeah.
I'm like, I can't even think right now. And Martin Duco comes in, he's like, you going to shootout? I'm like, no chance. But for me, just having that kind of confidence and having that kind of teammate,
for him to say that
meant
a lot.
It says a lot, right? It says a lot about the team, and we talk about that culture and that winning. And so what I got out of it is that those guys kind of really helped me through that, because if I didn't have that, you're really lonely. In that situation.
I really appreciate your candidness with this because this is the part of what I do as a journalist. That I really love is I can kind of dispel a myth here. It wasn't a playoff game. It wasn't because remember when you see this video on YouTube, you don't get any context. And it's so long ago now that nobody really knows. Like if you told the average dummy the way the internet works now where the videos just keep popping up. If you told the average person, oh yeah, this was Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals with absolutely no context, they probably believe it. You know what I mean? But it really was a middle-of-the-season game.
Well, I think the one thing I learned from that is that, one mistake I made in that play. And that's that, I should just shot it.
Yeah.
I was trying to here's my thing because I always overthink things usually. I was trying to bring the puck to the net, all the way to
Lay
the
it
net.
in.
And I put it on my backhand, which I have no idea why. And if you see it jumps over my stick. So, what happens after that, it just, I don't know if it's bad luck or whatever, but it happens so quick. I was in shock and everything. But like I said, the one thing I would change is just shoot at the net. Don't overthink it. And I was overthinking it.
I don't think I will ever have another opportunity to do this, so I'm going to do it. Do you know that about 10 years, this is a true story, I told Billy this the day you got hired. You know that about 10 years ago, the New York Times hired me to try and find your phone number.
Really?
They were doing a story about these little errors in sports. And I told them, this is something that's coming back to my memory. I said it wasn't a playoff game. And they were like, oh. I was like, yeah, it wasn't a playoff game. It was the middle of the regular season. They said, oh, okay, don't worry about it.
So you're looking for my number, and now 10 years later, we are sitting
here. We're sitting next to it. This is unbelievable. I literally got paid $150 to Google your phone number for an hour.
You still need my number?
No, I do now. Yeah, I could have used it then. Maybe I would have gotten $300. But I appreciate you answered that question because, I'm sure there's something really embarrassing that I did out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do it all the time.
It's embarrassing, but I always like to give. I'm not afraid to give the ins and outs.
Yeah.
And I think that's embarrassing that moment, but also there's so much more around that.
Exactly.
And I think that's you talk about your teammates, you talk about what happened and how much trust they have in you, and it's a team sport and all these things. I think that's what is amazing.
Because I'm sure there's some wild speculation in some comment on YouTube under there that's just got the whole thing wrong. He went back to Europe. He lives in a cave.
Sure,
he drinks. You know what I mean?
Social media.
Yeah, exactly. The accuracy of anything on social media is always to be questioned. That's why we do journalism.
Exactly.
Ta-da! You know what I mean?
And I did want to follow up with, have you contacted Chicago's front office at all?
Why? Because they got...
Yeah, because, hey, if you didn't do that, they wouldn't have got Kane. They wouldn't have got those 3 cups.
There's lots of ifs.
That's just a bit... That just sounds ridiculous.
Hey, if you want to put it out like that, but it's true, though, that pick was because of that play. And
that's like saying that if LeBron James wasn't born the year I graduated, I would have been the first pick. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, no, but it went to a head-to-head because there was a 3-way tie between Chicago, Edmonton, and Dallas.
Wow.
And Edmonton got that extra point because they went to overtime
But it wasn't the last game of the season.
No.
Right, so
But still, but overall, it could have.
They could have won. They could have got an extra point somewhere else.
And the Dallas Stars could have won the Stanley Cup that season immediately. Yeah, think about it, right? Like,
I think if it's the last game of the season,
yes,
that's the breaking point.
Okay, boom.
Okay,
but I mean, you got to remember, we're also just coming that it was after the lockout too, so it was like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like. We're just coming out of an era a few years ago where St. Louis was in dead last on January 30th and won the Stanley Cup. So it's hard. It would be hard for me to buy into that.
Listen, I mean, is it fun to talk about it? Oh yeah, because
100%.
Oh my God, they got Patrik Stefan. It's like, oh my God, what a story.
Before we let you go, why don't you just give us like a little update on your kids? Like, where are they at in their careers and their development?
Yeah, I mean, my son James, he's in Portland, Winterhawks, playing up there in WHL. It's going to be his 4th year. He went to LA Kings main camp last year, training camp. This year he's going to Ottawa Senators camp. So, I mean, he's trying to, get to the levels that, I've been.
Was he drafted?
Driven. He hasn't been drafted, no. So it's going to be more like a free agent kind of thing. Hopefully it's a big year and then, pursue his dreams. And obviously my younger son Wyatt is playing here in Danbury. It's going to be his 2nd year, and I think for him, kind of dreams and goals right now to get a D1 scholarship and commitment and kind of pursue that college route. Obviously, it's he wants to play national hockey as well, and have a dream. But I think that most of U.S. players playing in NHL, USHL is pursuing those college commitments.
So something I kind of wanted to ask you just kind of came up right there. Is like, having gone through a bit of a different route to get to the NHL, and now you're coaching in this league and stuff. And you have one son who's basically given for the listeners. When you go to the major juniors, you've surrendered your right to go to a Division I college. You no longer have the opportunity. But now you have Wyatt, who's playing for the NAHL team, and usually those guys are looking towards that opportunity. So you've had one that's gone to the major juniors and one that's looking towards college. What do you think about the approaches here? Like, what do you think is the best approach for a kid?
So I did this as an agent, right? So because I was representing players who are playing major juniors, I was representing players who are playing college. Mm-hmm. I really think that every player is different. Every player's got different routes and trees, that they have, kind of maybe has a good fit. Some players maybe feel, the development and pursuing the major junior route. Some players feel it, this is the route to go, is go to the USHL, NHL, to rankings and go to college. Again, from my experience, I know one thing. It's so hard to get to where you want to get to. Yeah. It's incredibly hard. I don't know what's the percentage, probably 1% of the players get there. I think that for some players, maybe take the shorter term, a shorter route, because if you go to major juniors, you start at 16, 17, you're done at 20. If you don't make it, then what are you doing then? Right. For the college level, you play junior level potential to 19, 20, and if you commit and go to college, you have another 4 years there. Your development, it's going to be a lot longer, right?
You're
potential
mature,
to get there, maturity, all of that. But at the same time, when you go and play those major juniors, the high of a play and talent-wise is very high, right? You have the best 16, 17, 18-year-old players. When you play this level over here, you still have very good players, but you have longer to develop. So, like I said, it's. I think there's some both things, pros and cons. I think you're just kind of finding your way. But for me, I think the college way is to go because you do have a longer term to develop and to potentially reach your, whatever your ceiling is.
Before we let you go, at least on my end, what can you tell us about this NAHL Hat-Tricks team this season?
Well, I think that it's we are younger. I think we added some skill that I want to add to the team. I think that the guys who were here last year went through whatever they went through. It was a tough year. I really kind of motivated in some ways. It's the last year as well, so there's lots of hunger. I think there's lots of positive things right now in the locker room and just be around them. It's a fresh start, right? So we all started, basically 0 wins, 0 losses. Mm-hmm. So I think they are kind of just looking at that like a fresh start, good mindset, a little bit younger, a little bit more skill in the team, and just kind of all put it together. And like I said, maybe potentially having a good start to the season and just take it from there. I don't like to put things on, we are a playoff team or be near a playoff team. For me, it's let's have a good start. It's a process, gel together as a team, have fun together. And then I think if the process is in the place and you follow that, the wins will come.
I think everybody in Danbury is behind you guys with the NAHL team, and I also think that, just some consistency with that team would be good this year. Just
100%.
some consistent. I tell guys, again, I'd never compare even beer league hockey to anything, but just playing hard every game is an improvement sometimes. Just competing.
And I think there's been lots of positive things happening to this organization.
Yeah.
Look at the Fed team, the Pro team won the league, right?
Yeah.
So that helps a lot too. The ownership is very committed. There's been some changes, adding personnel. The pro guys are a lot more involved. Is the NA guys now? Is my kids on my team? So there's lots of positive vibe. All the way throughout. The pro team, NA team, and even NA3 team. Down the list. So
Awesome.
Yep.
And then, what are some things that the fans can expect to see this weekend?
Hopefully some excitement in the way that how we're gonna play, what kind of pace we're gonna play with. We're not gonna be team that is going to be easy to play against. I felt that last year that team just kind of really walk all over us, and it was just too easy. It was also a lot to do with the mental side of the things of the team, right? When you just lose so many hockey games, it's difficult to push the players and then have those things. So I think that the fans can expect that we're gonna be hungry. I think we're gonna be challenging team to play against, and hopefully we're gonna play with some pace, score some goals.
Patrik, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you for coming in.
This is one of the best interviews I think we ever did on the show.
Oh,
so I
yeah.
want to thank you so much.
How many interviews you had?
We've had almost 30.
Almost 30.
Appreciate it, guys. Yeah,
30.
thanks for having me.
Thank you, Patrik.
Of course, thank you.